Hello folks, it is the 2nd of December. Yes, it is. I had to check my calendar. Cheers to you. I thought to myself, I'll check and see. My subscriber number has been flitting between 17,995 and 999, and today it flipped over to 18,000. I noticed, So I said, well, if it flips over, I'll say thank you, because I do whenever I have those markers. You've reached 100 subscribers, you've reached 500 subscribers. It's fairly meaningless, except it's a marker, you know what I'm saying? I never ask people to subscribe. Have you noticed that I don't? And yet people subscribe. Thank you. I think I understand why. For the most part, I like to watch my own videos, for a number of reasons, mainly to see if I've articulated halfway close, to gauge, honestly, sometimes whether or not something I say is going to trigger someone, because it's been a long time since I've made statements where I intentionally wanted to trigger people. I don't. I just want to say what's on my mind and just deal with what comes. So thank you for being with me. I'm not going to have a contest. I haven't figured it out how I'm going to do this yet, but I have a couple of extra items that I can give away. But I don't want to have a contest because I don't want to sit around watching a lot of videos, because I don't. Okay? Now, I'll think about it and figure out how I'm going to give these away. But I have an extra copy of Gary Schwartz's 7-inch single, I Really Like You. When he sent this to me, he sent me 2 copies. Thank you, Gary. And it's blue vinyl. So I have one of these. I'll think of how I'm going to give this away. I'm not going to have a contest, but as a way of saying thank you somehow to give this music away. And then Ellis Clark, LP number 1, Chicago musician, Tricycle. He has a collectible psychedelic album from years back. Good guy. I worked with him on the Kleeman album, but I have an extra copy of his album, and this is good. Yesterday, I received another package from Anthony Ferraro. Anthony is so kind to me. I've never met Anthony, just is always giving me music. And he gives me the stuff that I love. Thank you, Anthony. Here's what he sent me. He sent me Fire Merchants, which I believe he's the one who sent this to me before. But I have a Fire Merchants album on vinyl. John Goodsall from Brand X is the guitarist. Fusion-y. It gets a little busy at times, a little noodly, kind of like I'm playing fast, but I don't know why. But for the most part, this is really good playing. He sent me a bootleg Camel live at Hammersmith Odeon, is this 82 or 19? I actually have to use this because of my eyes. I hate that. 1982. Fucking hate that my eyes are gone. That's a whole nother story. My eyes were fine until I had to see an eye doctor, and they couldn't get my eyes to dilate, and they kept putting this stuff in, and then my eyes never returned. They never turned back to normal. And when I tried to complain and explain this, of course they gave me all kinds of reasons why I'm imagining it. Anyway, the recording quality on this is dodgy, but thank you. Love the packaging. I love the band Camel. And then the coup de grace, or the big item, is he sent me the new Steven Wilson live CD, DVD, Home Invasion. Listened to some of this and watched some of this last night. Yeah, Steven Wilson is someone who I oh, it's still in the computer. Steven Wilson is someone who I I like how he does things. I used to be somewhat intrigued by him, but the more I got to know him, he's like, you know, he's really a lot like me. And as a musician, I must say again, I started listening to Steven Wilson following the work of Richard Barbieri and Steve Jansen. And I must say that I still place their work higher than Steve Wilson and Porcupine Tree. I say that because I think that there are a lot of folks who really like Porcupine Tree and have not discovered the sublime work of Steve Jansen and Richard Barbieri. That's how I discovered Steve Wilson. Thank you, Anthony, for this. Steve Wilson delivers. He does. I like his thing. I do. Would like to share with you folks that my campaign to raise funds to pay off the unscrupulous realtor who bought my house out from under me for late taxes was successful. Tomorrow I meet with the lawyer and get the title to my house back. I accept no criticism from anyone about my situation because the criticizers don't know my situation. You don't know my life. And I really don't care what they think. They're not me. Thank you, the world. I've had so many wonderful people, including wonderful musicians that you all have heard of, who have contributed to my cause. I won't shout them out because I think that would be crass, but I was blown away at some of the major names in music and art who contributed to my campaign. Thank you so much. I can't think of their name right now, but I got a really wonderful message on Facebook from someone who says he's been watching me for 5 years while he was waiting for a kidney, I believe he said. He finally got it. The letter is just, thank you. It's an honor to know that just by being myself, somehow it was a comfort to you. Thank you for sharing that with me. Some records sitting down here. Dysrhythmia. Interesting how the cats on this album are now back together. Jacko Jaksic with Gavin Harrison. They're both in King Crimson now. And this came out back, I think, in the 80s. I didn't care for it much for it at first because it was so understated, but it makes more sense now. It's a blend of East-West rhythms, understated melody. It's beautiful, but not overly beautiful. It's nice. 1988, I think, is when that came out. This is an indie band I saw back in the early 2000s, opening for Of Montreal. They were so good that I walked out of Montreal. Of Montreal, I just think, are just so-so. They have a couple good songs. Headlights, The Enemies EP. I think it's a couple. A husband and wife duo. I met them after the show. They were really nice, but their music, it's simple, but you got to hear this. It's something about the woman's voice as well as the words. It's so honest. I played this 3 times in a row because it felt so good. Headlights. I'll say something else. Arcade Fire? Headlights. Okay. How about that? No, I ain't got no damn Arcade Fire. I know about them beating the drums and all that shit. There is so much music better than what everybody goes flocking to like flies to. I don't know. I just get like this. Susie. So I pulled this and played the extended version. I love Susie. Cities and Dust is the badass jam. With her husband or ex-husband Budgie on drums. This gets a lot of talk, you know, and for good reason. So, you know, every now and then I pull it. And I love this album. It's not my favorite King Crimson album, Red, but it's one of those records that you need to hear. It's powerful. It is powerful. Cluster 71. Man, this just takes me to a whole nother space and time. Every time, it's fantastic. I had started the day yesterday with this. I forget who sent it to me, but Caitlin, Aurelia Smith, and Susan Chani. Synergy. Now one side of this bubbles on and on and on to the point where it's like, okay, are you almost done? And then the other side is like, I wish that side had gone on longer. Isn't that interesting? Beautiful electronic music. Beautiful electronic music. I had pulled, this came out accidentally. I almost never listened to Philip Glass. Played this the other day and it's like, man, powerful. You really have to kind of be ready for Philip Glass music. It is demanding. As repetitive as it is, it's deep. I've told the story before, but I got to meet Philip Glass years and years and years ago. And when I met him, I had a record of his that he didn't have. Asked him for an autograph. He autographed it, but wanted to know where I got it because he didn't even have a copy of it. I had copies of my first 2 EPs, this one and the Dereck 2 EP, which I gave to him. And he asked me for my autograph, and he said, sincerely, I want your autograph. When people give me stuff like this, I keep it. This means a lot to me. That was a wonderful moment to share with Philip Glass. So Philip Glass has my records in his collection. Played this, Strata Institute with Greg Osby and Steve Coleman. I was looking up stuff that I have by Steve Coleman, thinking about the fact that I'm on a record with Steve Coleman's current drummer, Sean Rickman, the Dave Newhouse. It's still just really I'm chuffed as heck. So chuffed about this. So I think someone sent this to me. I think John Coltrane 68 sent this to me. I was cold to it at first, listened to it more, and it's like, okay, I get this. They're exploring ideas that haven't gelled completely, is how I would put this sound. It's jazz trying to be something beyond that. That's the best way to put it. I always loved Soft Machine, and this album is actually demos from 66, 67 that were never intended to be released, but Giorgio Gomelski, who was their manager at the time, did what managers do. Well, it's mine, so I release it, you know. I'm glad that this is out. Early stuff. Memories. That's How Much I Need You Now. This is back when David Allen and Kevin Ayers are in the band. Here's an electronic album that's kind of slightly light, but I found it enjoyable while doing housework yesterday. And this is a reissue, Electrophon. The original has a cooler cover. Further Thoughts on the Classics. They also have another album called Zygote that I don't have that has a cover that I really like. It's one of my favorite covers, but I don't own it. I wish I did. And then I was listening to the reggae. You know, I was talking about it, and so I started listening, and I love it. I love it. Thanks, folks, for being with me.